First, you start with a plan, a program to follow for your meeting. It's called the agenda. There are three main parts to the agenda. First, the introduction, calling the meeting to order, followed by the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Now that you are going to be doing something at your meetings, you'll want to make sure that your secretary does keep careful minutes. They're the official record of what the group has done. After the minutes have been read, the president asks if there are any corrections. If there aren't any, the president declares the minutes approved as read. If there are any corrections, the secretary makes them, and the president orders the minutes approved as corrected.
Gee, that sounds simple enough.
Like I said before, most of the rules are plain common sense. Once the minutes have been approved, the second part of the agenda comes up, the reports. Usually the first report is from the treasurer and includes the current balance in the treasury, plus a summary of the monies received and the bills paid since the last meeting. Members should have a chance to ask questions, but the treasurer's report usually is not subject to being accepted or corrected. The president simply announces that it has been received and filed. After the treasurer, each of the other officers may be given the opportunity to report on any business he or she has conducted since the last meeting.
That certainly won't take long.
After the officers' report come the committee reports. Again, the chairman of each committee should report on any activity since the last meeting. Permanent standing committees may not have anything to report for months at a time, but special committees that have been appointed to carry out a specific task or to consider a specific problem should have something to report at each meeting, preferably progress towards reaching their goal.
Well, our student council is so small and it's so hard to get anybody to do anything. I've never even tried to appoint any committees.
Susie, using committees can be the best way to make your meetings more productive. Even a small committee of 2 or 3 people can take the time to study a difficult or complicated question, consider any number of alternative solutions, and develop a recommendation to the main body. For example, making plans for an event.
Like the senior prom?
Exactly. You could divide the work up into several committees. One to decide on a theme for the decorations, one to select a band, one for refreshments, and so forth. So that each committee has a specific task to accomplish. People can do an amazing amount of work when they know that they're expected to report back to the main body by a certain deadline. And when they make their report, each committee's recommendations should be treated in the same way as a main motion.
A what?
A main motion. I'll explain that in just a minute.
Okay. Well, now we've gotten the meeting started and we've heard all the reports from officers and committees. What comes next?
The third part of the agenda, most people call unfinished and new business, or items for action. It's basically just a list of all the questions, proposals for actions, and resolutions that are to be discussed. The first part is called special orders. This is a list of items that the members have previously agreed to take up at a specific time or ahead of all other business. For example, elections may be treated as special orders. Sometimes an item will be postponed from a previous meeting, and the member who proposes the postponement will specify that the item is to be taken up on a definite date as a special order. So it would go on this list too. Once an item is on the list of special orders, it must be taken up in order, unless the group decides by a 2/3 vote to skip it. Next comes unfinished business, which includes anything that was unfinished at the end of the last meeting, or that was on the agenda for the last meeting but was never taken up. Ongoing business also can be included on this list. For example, if you have a project that will take several months to carry out and that involves a number of separate steps that need to be considered separately, it would go on this list. Finally, new business. Any new item that someone wants to bring up that hasn't been considered previously.
But how would I know what someone will want to talk about?
Oh, that's simple. Just tell your members that if they want to bring up something that isn't already on the agenda, they should tell you before the meeting. Otherwise, they'll have to wait until the very end of the meeting, after all the other business has been taken care of. And by then, everyone will want to end the meeting and go home.
Boy, that's for sure. Okay, so now I have the agenda, the list of what is supposed to be done during a meeting. What do I do with it?
Well, the most important thing is to follow it. Don't let people even start to talk about anything that isn't in the present business, the proper item on the agenda. Remember, do one thing at a time. As soon as one thing is finished, whether it's a report or consideration of an item for action, you announce the next item. If anyone brings up something that's not on the agenda or not in the next item on the agenda, you inform them that that item is not in order.